Welcome to tonight's edition of Channel 42 News, Boston, Massachusetts. I'm your anchor, Brian Cardone.
And I'm the other anchor, Alex Himes.
Alex, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Brian.
For tonight's top story, we're going to go to my co-anchor and great friend, Alex Himes.
Tonight's top story is who was involved in World War II and how they became involved. There's two sides to the war, the Axis and the Allies. For the Axis, the three main powerhouses were Germany, Italy, and Japan. Now for the Allies, the main powerhouses were the United States, Russia, Great Britain, and France. Now I'm going to talk about how they became involved. Germany first invaded Poland, which started the whole conflict in World War II. Their dictator, Adolf Hitler, was thirsty for power and wanted more. For Italy, they were always allies with Germany, and their leader was Benito Mussolini. And finally, for Japan, they became involved after they bombed Pearl Harbor, and their leader is Emperor Hirohito. The U.S. joined the war after they were bombed at Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, and their president was President Roosevelt, but after he passed, it became transferred to President Truman. Great Britain joined the war once Germany invaded Poland, and their leader was Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Then France joined the war with Great Britain after Germany also invaded Poland. Finally, Russia joined the war after they were betrayed by Hitler, and their leader was Joseph Stalin. That was our top story. Now we're going to go back to anchor Brian Cardone.
Thank you, Alex, for that spectacular story.
Thank you, Cardone.
Speaking of spectacular, that story was brought to you by Coca-Cola.
Drink fresh.
Whoa, this just in. Our reporter, Tom, is in with some very interesting news at Fenway Park. What you got for us, Tom?
Thank you, Brian. I'm here at Fenway Park, where in a couple of minutes, two baseball greats will square off. Tonight, the Red Sox will play the Dodgers. And Jackie Robinson, the man who broke the color barrier in baseball and is an inspiration to young players around the U.S., will face off against possibly the greatest hitter in baseball, Ted Williams. I'm here at a local bar right after the game with a local fan, Mr. Smith.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Steve Smith. This is my newborn son, Steve Jr. Yeah, he's a newborn, first game here at Boston. Big fan already. I bought him a jersey. And you know what, just a big fan of Boston 42. Yeah, that anchor is Brian Cardone. My wife's got a wicked crush on her, you know? Alright, peace out.
Now, after the game, we have heard that there's going to be a show by Frank Sinatra, and he's going to be joined by the great jazz pianist Duke Ellington. Here's Frank now.
Hey, what's up, folks? Hello, Boston.
As you all know, Frank Sinatra, the singer of the greatest songs like My Way, New York, and Fly Me to the Moon, will be playing here at Fenway Park tonight.
Be there.
From Fenway Park, back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Tom. Now, Brian, let's go to your story about how women have came so far in this early 1900s.
Alright, so basically the women started out in the households, as we see here in this picture, right around here. And then they turned into workforce people as soon as the men had to go off to war. Let's go see this short clip of what I filmed. Hi, I'm here with Miss Featherston here today in her kitchen. Why don't you tell us what you're doing here today?
I'm just making some cookies.
Wow, they smell delicious.
Thank you, Brian.
So what are you going to do now?
Well, my husband's going off to fight in the war, so I'm going to need to work in the factory.
Wow, that sounds great. Let's go see you we'll see you in about 6 months. Oh wow, what a beautiful factory we have here. Oh, hi there, Miss Featherston.
Well, hello there, Brian.
So what are you making for our boys overseas?
I'm making some new trucks, because they could really use the help from us women back home.
That's right. Women have joined the workforce here in America, and they'll be fighting for their right to keep working. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you, Brian, for that segment. That was very emotional and moving.
Thank you, Hans. I worked really hard on it.
All right, now we're going to go to our next topic with our reporter, Tom Kreinen. First, before we go to the topic, we're going to have a quick commercial break.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Featherston, and I'm making cookies for you. Try my cookies now. My cookies are great with some milk.
Gee Wilkers, thanks, Miss Featherston. These are delicious cookies. Mmm.
Thank you, Alex. But first, we're going to go to Jeremy to hear his story.
Hi guys. During this week, shortly after Hitler took power in Germany, he ordered all non-Aryans to be removed from government jobs. This order looks like to be one of the first moves in the campaign for racial priority. Later during this month, these actions are building up to what is now being called the Holocaust. Although Jews are not the only victims of this newfound practice, they are said to be the center of Nazi targets. Anti-Semitism, or the hatred of the Jews, had a long history in many European continents. Over the last couple of months, and even years ago, Germans have often made Jews the scapegoat for their economic failures. Hitler has now found out that a majority of his loyal German followers are willing to support his belief that Jews were responsible for Germany's economic problems and the loss of the World War. As the Nazis tighten up their control of Germany, their persecution is only increasing of the Jews. This is quite a tragedy. Here's a news article from the New York Times stating the recent news that we just found out.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that story. Very interesting. News just got in that Jeremy has another top story he would like to share with us. Let's go right to him.
Today, we'll look back at our decade's presidents. Franklin Delano Roosevelt assumed the presidency during the Great Depression, and he helped American people regain faith in themselves and in the country. He brought hope as he promised prompt action, and he made his famous statement in the inaugural address, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." When he first took over, there was 13 million people unemployed, and almost every bank was closed. But as time went on and his term went on, he proposed a sweeping program to bring recovery to business and agriculture and to relieve the unemployed. By 1935, the nation had achieved some measure of recovery, but still had a lot of work to do to recover. He was re-elected in 1936, and when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, Roosevelt directed organization of the nation's manpower and resources for global war. Another president of this decade was a man by the name of Harry S. Truman, who after World War II, he invested in a men's clothing store, but the business failed. And discouraged by his business failure, Truman sought a career in politics. As a politician, his blunt and outspoken style had won both loyal friends and bitter enemies. As a president, his decisiveness and willingness to accept responsibility for his decision has earned him respect over the last couple of years. We're still waiting to see what Truman will do to execute his plan to help America regain its prominence, but we're looking forward to what he can bring to our country. Thank you.
At 7:48 this morning on December 7th, 1941, the U.S. was attacked by 353 Japanese fighter planes, bombers, and torpedo planes. 3 cruisers, 8 battleships, 3 destroyers, and an anti-aircraft training ship and one mine layer were lost by the U.S. The U.S. also lost 188 aircrafts and 2,403 U.S. soldiers were killed and 1,778 injured. The Japanese casualties were less. They only lost 29 aircraft and 65 soldiers were killed or wounded. One man, Kazura Sakamaki, was captured by the U.S. and is the U.S. first Japanese POW. The U.S. will retaliate and has decided to do so by declaring war against the Japanese. People in the U.S. agree with this declaration of war as they feel that they need to get back for what they have done to the U.S. President Roosevelt has proclaimed that December 7th, 1941 is a date which will live in infamy. The U.S. Navy will do all it can to build Pearl Harbor up from the ashes to rise to its former strength and show the Japanese that this is not over yet. That's all from here at Pearl Harbor. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Tom, for that incredible news segment about the tragic events there at Pearl Harbor. Alex, so I heard you have a new story developing over in Japan.
Yes. Currently, we're talking about the atomic bombs that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima and how that ended the war with the U.S. and Japan.
Well, let's cut right to it then.
All right. So, with further description of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, on August 6, 1945, an American B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb named Little Boy on Hiroshima, Japan. In an instant, 80,000 to 140,000 people were instantly vaporized, and about more than 100,000 were injured. The blast wave shattered windows for a distance of 10 miles and fell as far away as 37 miles. Then 3 days later, another bomb would be dropped. On August 9th, 1945, another B-29 bomber named Boxcar exploded the atomic bomb Fat Man on Nagasaki, Japan. Upon impact, 74,000 people were killed and 75,000 sustained severe injuries. The damage was less extensive since the blast was boxed in by a river valley. Also because the bomb was dropped 2 miles off target. Both atomic bombs wiped out more than 85% from the impact and radiation exposure. Japan's Emperor Hirohito announced his country's unconditional surrender in World War II in a radio address on August 15th. Hirohito was citing the devastating power of a new and most cruel bomb. On September 2nd, Japan signed the Instrument of Surrender, effectively ending World War II. Hiroshima and Nagasaki would go down in history as the day to remember where humanity created the greatest weapon of mass destruction.
Thank you for that historical segment, Mr. Himes. Are you feeling a little cold?
Yeah, pal.
Oh, yeah, me too. That's a great transition to our next war, the Cold War. So to begin the Cold War in 1945, the United Nations was established. And then in 1946, Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of England, gave his famous Iron Curtain speech, which talked about Germany and the Russian influence of communism. And then in 1948, the United States engages in the Berlin Airlift, which helps keep the Western Berlin safe from communism. Then again in 1949, the United States joins NATO. Only if I knew what NATO was. What's NATO? Okay. And this just in, I just realized what NATO was. NATO was a North Atlantic Treaty Organization in which the United States joined with 12 other nations in which they would fight for each other in case of a communist attack. And then, in 1949, China falls under communist influence with the victory of Mao Zedong over Chiang Kai-shek, the nationalist leader. So that about handles it for the 1940s and the Cold War. Stay tuned for our closing credits.
Thank you for that segment over the Cold War, Brian. It was very informative and emotional, too.
Thank you, Alex.
My pleasure.
Well, audience, why don't you stay tuned for tomorrow night, and we'll see what really happens in life.
Stay classy, Boston.